The meeting is in order. Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Flamini?
Here.
Thunderbird? Here. Johnson? Here. Lopez?
Here.
McFarland?
Here.
Moore?
Here.
Zimmers?
Here.
37 present.
I think we want to begin tonight's meeting. We lost a staff member in the last couple of days, a teacher at Franklin Middle School, sixth grade world history teacher, taught in the gifted program at Franklin Middle School, young man by the name of Scott Floor. And I think we ought to begin tonight's meeting by having a moment of silence out of respect to him and his family. Thank you. Does anybody want to comment anything about Mr. Floor? Knew him personally, like this? Dan?
Actually had the opportunity to take several masters. I actually had the opportunity to take several master's classes with Mr. Floor, just as the illness was beginning to occur, and was just amazed even at that point of his ability to work all day and be in a master's level course to help professionally move on in his career and as well as fighting a very serious illness. So I can't say enough about someone that did that, and I know the teachers at Franklin have just, the outpouring's been amazing. The Franklin staff just really, students talking about coaching stories and things, so I think he's someone that certainly touched our community, and we're certainly going to miss him.
I would agree with Dan. He coached my daughter, and she's at Franklin Adam. He probably coached you. He's probably one of the most kind people I've ever met in my life. I don't know of anybody that does not like him or liked him. He just was a tremendous person. It's a huge loss.
And I just wanted to say too that my son was on the cross country team and the track team, and he, my son Jim, was very inspired by Mr. Floor, and yeah, very inspired by him.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Flamini.
Okay, you got the addendum on study hall supervisors and all of that?
Now you're going to go to President's report.
Oh, okay. All right, I want to make some comments. We had a little bit of excitement, you might say, starting with some of my comments about a week ago. And I've been known for that. I said something that I really feel to be true. And what I'm going to tell you is how I feel about a few things. This is my community also. Almost every year of my life I've lived here, with the rare exception of having been luckily admitted to a college where I went for a few years. But as many of the things that I've been saying recently are coming out because I'm taking a look at some things and I'm starting to see a pattern. The one thing is, and I hope that I can state this more artfully than I did the other day, is that there's no longer anywhere for us as a community to go to for money. As time passes, I'm telling you, the state and State Board of Education, any of those apparatus that are there to help school districts, this one's broke. I don't see the cavalry coming from them to resurrect us or, save our soul. So we have a real problem. And what I was saying last week was, or the week before, we need to be thinking about what we really do have, what avenues we have. I think, the 1 of the things that I've been saying last week was, or the week before, we need to be thinking about what we really do have, what avenues we have. I think, the 1 of the things that I've been saying last week was, or the week before, we need to be thinking about what avenues we have. I think, the 1 of the things that I've been saying last week was, or the week before, we need to be thinking about what avenues we have. I think, the 1 of the things that I've been saying last week was, or the week before, we need to be thinking about what avenues we have. I think, the 1 of the things that I've been saying last week was, or the week before, we need to be thinking about what avenues we have. I think, the 1 of the things that I've been saying last week was, or the week before, we need to be thinking about what avenues we have. I think, the 1 of the things that I've been saying last week was, or the week before, we need to be thinking about what avenues we have. I think, the 1 of the things that I've been saying last week was, or the week bef it would be in the best interest of all of us in the community in general to take a really serious look at what we can or cannot do. There aren't tricks out there. There isn't a bag of tricks to go to get something done, other than face your community and make your case. I can't tell you when I think the time will come that we can do that, but believe me, a lot of us are thinking about it. And that's how I feel, that this is me speaking. And what I would like to see is, as the year goes on, we will be creating, hopefully, based upon some conversations with you, committees to begin to look at questions. We have a group, Mr. Shaver's shop, who is looking into, I want to know, and I bet most of you don't know any more than I do about it, all of the various parcels of land owned throughout this community by the school district. Every time I have a conversation, I hear something different. And he's working on that for us. Start filling in the blanks so that we really understand what is going on. And I promise the community will be involved. If you hang around here too much, you might run a committee or something, so be careful. And we really need to take a good look at this. I am one who has thought for the longest time that is really a difficult task at hand, but I'm also one that can read the tea leaves pretty well. And I think I see some openings there. And can't tell you when, but I'm going to tell you that we're going to start thinking about it and maybe talking about it. Any questions or comments?
I'd like to comment on that. And I know some of the other board members may too, so excuse me for jumping in here, but we had a conversation in cabinet this morning that I believe lends a lot of credence to a lot of your thoughts and your perception of what's going on in the community. And Kathy Crum and others talked about the many, many partners that we have that no one knows about. People that are buying into Springfield Public Schools and public education and are stepping up and doing things that don't get their name on the front page or anything else, but think that what we're doing is important. And as the school district goes, the city and the community of Springfield goes. And if you believe that, you're believing the right way, number one. And I don't know, Kathy, she's had some experiences recently that I think really describe that. Do you want to comment at all?
Sure. We have these new
We have new, by the way.
machines, so I don't know.
That should be a board salute tonight, that we have a new microphone system, so.
Let's wait to see if it works.
Okay, that's a deal.
Just a few things. I'll start backward, maybe from this morning. At 7:30, I was in a meeting with the CEO board, which is the Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities, and that was the result of the way I said it this morning is a bunch of people having an idea about creating an experience for kids, and then they got investors from the community, and it's a long-term investment that they made. And the result today, I got to see the kids again. Students from Springfield, Southeast, Lanphier, and then the outlying communities really you guys would have been really proud of how they conducted themselves, and then they're just going to get some super experiences. And this is really completely the result of these community people deciding that they wanted to create this experience for our kids. And then backing up from that, the Workforce Education Council and the Gallup poll, and you guys have heard about that. Now they're really interested in. They've been looking at the data all year, and now they're really interested in helping us with our freshmen. And so, because we know that by this time of the year, we can already tell which freshmen might be in trouble. And so they want to really target that area. And then the Business Education Partnership, you sit around the table, and it goes on and on and on. And I said in cabinet this morning that we could probably go around cabinet, and each of us could come up with 10 things that we knew about that were going on in the community. I know the foundation, I know the teacher thing from last week. It just goes on. And I just feel a sense of support from our community. So, and I was, how can we recognize that, you know?
Well, and that's exactly what I was getting at, that whole sense of support, and it seems to be coming together, and I think that's the opportunity maybe knocking soon if we stay vigilant and keep our pencils sharp. But anyway, I think your comments are right on.
I agree. Board salutes, anyone? Nothing? You got one?
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Flamini. I don't know if anybody knew Mr. Flamini and I on the first day of school went to about 10 schools. We went to Jane Addams, Owen Marsh.
You were arrested there, weren't you?
Where else? Sandburg, Southeast, Lanphier, Washington. There's a couple others, and we did have lunch with the students and faculty at Lanphier. So it was paid for, so we didn't get a free lunch, but. I salute those schools because we didn't tell them we were coming, so it was good, and everybody was happy to see us. So,
All the schools that we went to, they were running beautifully for the first day of school. They're as good as you can see.
I have one, Chuck. I have two, actually. I know others will probably do this, but the foundation event, the Illinois State Museum, it was very well attended. Mr. Ford, you're nodding your head. The teachers were out in force. It was a wonderful end to a really hot week. That's my second salute. Mr. Shaver, you guys, I've saluted you now. I won't salute you anymore, but I want to salute you.
Please do.
After that first week when it was so hot, and I know you had, because I had several parents call me and want to show up with air conditioners. You can't pop them into these old buildings because you'll blow the roof off. And I appreciate all the hard work that you and your staff did to keep everybody as cool and comfortable as possible in our 4 remaining unair-conditioned buildings. So, excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I have a couple I would like to salute. Went to Matheny's ribbon cutting ceremony for their brand new school, beautiful building. Good turnout of community people and parents and kids. Very nice afternoon. And then 3 of us went to Washington's open house last Thursday. Is that what it was, last Thursday? And very nice event. They had a huge turnout of parents and students there, so I salute Washington for the turnout they got from their community.
Oh, go ahead.
Good. Judy?
So adding to the salutes for schools that don't have air conditioning, Laketown, Hazeldale, Isles, and Fairview. I now have a grandchild in one of those schools, and so I am commending all of the personnel who are involved in those buildings, the teachers who have to do extra duty in putting up with the children and making sure that they're cooled off and that they're comfortable, and I think they are doing a great job. My granddaughter loves school. And so I would say that now that we've had a slight cool off, this week should be a little bit more pleasant, although I know it's going to heat up again. So we commend you all for hanging in there and doing the hard task. Heat nowadays is a hard task. When I went to school, of course, we didn't have any air conditioning. Nobody thought about having any air conditioning. But as we move forward, hopefully everybody will have a more comfortable year, maybe next year. We'll see. I also attended the Matheny open house, and it is a very beautiful building. And I think that the staff and the students will enjoy being in there. I had a brief conversation with the lady who is the librarian who services 4 schools, and she thanked the board for providing this new facility for her to serve. So I think that's great. When we can get back to the business of funding librarians for all of our schools, I think that'll be even better. It's all a part of learning how to read. And as school progresses, I hope that everyone has a great school year. It's already, my phone's been ringing off the hook, unfortunately with a few problems, not building-wise, but I hope we are all going to get along together. So I look forward to this school year.
We're going to play nice.
Well, we hope so.
Getting back to the teacher appreciation event, I want to specifically mention the sponsors, the Springfield Public Schools Foundation, Ergadoo, Horace Mann, the Illinois Educators Credit Union, IEA, Troxel, the SEA, SIU School of Medicine, and the Illinois State Museum. So thank you very, very much for sponsoring this wonderful event.
Scott.
Oh, no, go, if you got something on that, go ahead.
I have one last salute, and it has to do with a sponsor also. The schools that Ms. Johnson mentioned, Lake Town, Hazeldale, Isles, and Fairview, thanks to the generosity of MJ Kellner, provided popsicles on those extremely hot days. So one of our vendors stepped up and took care of the kids, and the only downside of that was my grandson goes to Lindsay, and he was very disappointed that Lindsay didn't get the popsicles too. So, but I think about that. Might be a personal delivery next time.
My salute's pretty biased, but father's prerogative. I won't do it again, I swear. But I do want to salute Early Learning Center. My wife and I have been over there quite a bit, and they are our largest elementary school. I'm looking at the numbers. They're close to 600 students going through those doors every day. Run like clockwork. Great staff over there. Miss Rachel Hunter, our daughter's teacher, and her aide, Mrs. Ladd, came to our home, talked to us about this, the school. I know they went to every single student doing that. So I just really appreciate Early Learning Center and thank them for all the work they're doing. And it's going to be a good year for us.
Any other comments? Okay, no more board salutes. All right, old business. Any old business?
I'd like to bring up something. I'd like to thank Mr. Sanders for providing us with the transfer report. I talked to you the other day, and he had a lot of information to give to us, and he gave it to us in a timely fashion, so I appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah, that can be very telling sometimes. It's an interesting document to take a look at. Are those scattered about so people can get their hands on it?
Yeah, he's going to comment on that under the superintendent's report.
Superintendent search, Scott, can you make a few comments about that for us, please?
I believe the focus groups went well. I purposely didn't send in any of them, but from what I understand, the ones that we invited folks to were well attended. I'm disappointed by the public turnout on the two open ones, but we can work to promote those as we move forward and get more people involved in that. Right now, advertising is going through and will start soon, this month, and then we'll follow the timeline from there.
Thank you. Any other observations? Nope. Nobody has any new business other than that.
I did want to mention one thing real quickly. Our student board member was going to start tonight, and they're going to start on the 16th. So
Okay.
that's on the agenda, and we had to delete that. So.
Mrs. Vandenberg?
I just had a request, Mr. Lemming, at an upcoming meeting, if you could have Mrs. Diamond give us a SIG update.
Sure.
On how the last year of the grant is progressing and what the thinking is as we wind that down.
You bet. This is we're coming up on the, what's transformational and what things that we can keep around after the grant's gone. So when do you want that? Sometime real soon or
It's
not?
with your schedule, yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right.
I have a request.
Yes.
I think at some point, but I would like to have somebody from Douglas come over and tell us how the program operates and what they're doing. We need to have a community discussion on just so the board is informed as to how Douglas is operating.
I mean, you can't crank up the game.
Will do.
Okay, I have a request also. I just want to put this out there in the public and make sure that there's, the questions being answered. But as far as the Affordable Health Care Act, what impact is that going to have on our budget?
Joe, you want to comment? We've been talking about that, actually.
We've been talking about that, as Mr. Lemming said, and we're in a lot of communication with RW Troxel. I actually talked to them this morning, about one of the issues coming up being the insurance for part-time individuals. So I don't know that we can attach a dollar amount to it, but I can, we can put together a list of what the hot button items may be and how they'll affect us.
Okay, so how soon do you think that you can put that together?
I mean, I can start, looking at it. I don't know if I can have something for the next board meeting, but by the first one in October, I'll have something.
Okay,
Well, the impact is not until 2015, am I correct?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
But there's some big events that begin October 1, right?
Okay.
Right.
Now, you're talking about October 1 of this year?
Right, and we're still, and they're still waiting on some rulings. It's possible, for the part-time employees, it could take effect on the beginning of our plan year in 2014. We don't know that for certain yet, but, it's kind of always in flux. A lot of things haven't been decided.
It's really, you have to be able to separate the politics from what it really is, and it's hard to understand. I don't understand it, so. Anything else? Okay, turn this over to Bob, the ISAT report.
We have one report tonight, and that will be provided by Ann Morris, who is in charge of research and assessment and really manages all of the test scores and all the data, and is the queen of explaining this stuff, and has been working real hard to provide interpretation for all of us. So it's the board's turn to get a K-8 report. Now, I think we've decided the first board meeting in October, we'll give you a high school PSAE report. So this is kindergarten through 8th grade tonight. And Ann, if you're ready, I'm going to turn this over to you. And I'm going to get out of the way, because I think you want to follow along.
Button on the base.
Red, you just push it. Okay, I might actually come back here and point to some graphs that help explain my graphs. But tonight I'm happy to share with the board and the superintendent our data from the 2013 spring administration of our ISAT tests. Students in grades 3 through 8 take the ISAT tests. In our district, that amounts to about 6,500 students who take the ISAT tests. Over the last couple of years, our demographics of those students have remained about the same. 47% of our students in those grades are white students, 39% are African American, 9% are multi-ethnic, 5% fall into Hispanic, Asian, Native American, or Pacific Islander. Of those students, 19% have an IEP, and 63% are considered low income or economically disadvantaged. We've had a remarkable tidal wave hit us this year from our Illinois State Board of Education. You may or may not have heard about something called a rise in cut scores. This graph is from the Illinois Interactive Report Card, and it represents the last 3 years of our reading scores had we not had a rise in cut scores. And green represents students who would be meeting on the ISAT, blue would be students who would be exceeding, yellow would be below, and red would be students who are in the warning category. And all those areas would be our subgroups. Starting on the left, all white, black, Hispanic, Asian, American Indian, multiracial, LEP, IEP, and low income. it's a little misleading to look at it because when you look at it, it appears that there's the same number of kids in all the groups, and of course that isn't the case. And I'll explain that in a minute. But if Kathy clicks the next slide, you can see that the numbers drop dramatically. And what that means is that the new cut scores have been applied. What does that mean? Well, the bar this year got a lot higher. So let me give you an example. If you're a third grader, last year in 2012, in order to meet standards, in order to meet on the ISAT, you had to score a 191. That was the bottom number to meet on reading ISAT. This year, you had to get a 207 to meet on the ISAT. So, in third grade math last year, you had to get a 184 to meet. This year, you had to get a 214 to meet. So, as you can see, the bar got a lot higher, and that was the same for all of the grades, 3 through 8. So, when we look across for our scores, with the new cut scores applied, we had to, in order to compare for the last 3 years, we had to apply those cut scores back to 2012 and 2011 to see if we grew. And so that's what we did. And Illinois Interactive Report Card helped us with that. They've supplied a tool to all the districts in the state of Illinois and applied those new cut scores back 3 years so everybody could see if we had what's called student growth, because that's what everything is about these days. We need to see if our students are growing. So, looking to the left, and I'm going to walk around so I can point on the graph, and this will help you understand how our district did. Here's some good news. We have a lot of good news in reading this year. Over the last 3 years, when the new cut scores have been applied, we have gone up 2% every year in our all student category. And this is a lot of kids. It's 6,500 kids a year. So even though the numbers look low, it's because of this new cut score. So 44 to 46 to 48, we've made solid growth over the past 3 years. In this category, which is white students, we've gone up 3% over the last 3 years. Our African American students have gone up 5%, which is great news. We're really glad to see that. And that's about 2,500 students. Our Hispanic students have gone up 4%, and that's a smaller group of students, only about 160. Our Asian students have gone up 2%, and it's a small group of students. This American Indian group of students is very small, only about 18 students, and so those students do not count in our AYP. The multiracial students have gone up about 3% over 3 years, and it's about a group of 600 kids. LEP, which is limited English proficiency, very small group of students who don't count in our AYP, have gone up a little, but again, it's only about 35 kids. Our IEP students have stayed about the same. So that is something that we are concerned about. They've leveled off, and it is a sizable group of kids. It's about 1,200. But something we're really glad to see, which is the low-income category has gone up 4%, and it's a big group. It's 4,100 kids. So something that we're really happy to see is that we're beginning to close the achievement gap in the low-income and the African-American kids. Really happy to see that. Okay? Now here's math, and this is with the old cut scores. Now, we were pretty high in math. We were really feeling good about math. We were up in the 80s and 90s, really high scores. Our meets and exceeds were 77, 78%, 86 over the last 3 years, 78% in all these categories. African American kids were doing really well, 66, Hispanic 78, Asian up in the 80s and 90s, multiracial kids 78. IEP kids had a ways to go, but they were much higher than reading, 48, low income 72. But then they applied the new cut scores to us, and the bar went way, way higher. So here we are now down to 50 again. So it was a big hit. The difference being 27% knocked us back down. So as you can see, our math scores now have leveled off. So going across, we are the same as we were last year overall. We have 6,500 kids who scored about the same as they did last year in math. White students stayed about the same. African American students did better. Hispanic students did not as well. Asian students did a little bit better. Multiracial students went down a little bit. IEP students went down a little bit, and our low-income kids went up a little bit. So overall, we're about the same in math as we were last year. See how this data works? Okay. All right, next slide. So our celebrations, other than the really good scores in reading and holding our own in math, overall, it seems a little depressing when you get those lower actual numbers, but we're really talking about student growth here. So we did really make some good student growth in in reading, I'm sorry. We did make AYP in 9 schools, and here are the 9 schools: Isles, Harvard Park, Marsh, Hazeldale, Matheny, Withrow, Ridgely, Pleasant Hill, Southern View, and Wilcox. Isles actually hit the 98.3% AYP. The other schools made what's called Safe Harbor. And I'll explain that in a minute, what Safe Harbor is. You want to, next slide. Okay, there's a lot of words on this slide. Essentially what Safe Harbor is, each of the schools had set by the state a Safe Harbor target. They had either a group or a subgroup that the state set a mathematical target for them that they had to hit. If you had, for instance, a subgroup with 50 students in it that did not meet last year, a minimum subgroup that did not meet, a minimum target had to be at least 50 kids in it. You have to move 10% of those kids from does not meet into meets. So 10% of that group would be 5 kids. So those kids now have to be in the meet category. Here's an example. So let's say that a school, let's just say Hazeldale, had a subgroup of let's say African American kids that did not meet. If they moved 5 kids into meets, they hit their Safe Harbor target and they could have made AYP. So it is about moving kids in the right direction, which is student growth. That's what Safe Harbor is. These schools made AYP in one area. All of these elementary schools made it in reading, and these 2 middle schools made it in math.
Not the Safe Harbor way, just the regular way?
Safe Harbor.
Safe Harbor, okay.
We had a lot of gains at certain schools here and there throughout the district, but overall, our biggest gains were at 3rd and 4th grade, and we have a lot of theories about what the reasons for that might have been. We have implemented a really strong phonics program in kindergarten and 1st grade. We've done Reading Writing Plus. We've had a lot of focus on reading, and I think it could be coming to fruition because it's we have definitely seen the results at our early elementary. We have seen it in all of our categories across the board at elementary. We also have seen specific gains throughout upper elementary too, and we have done a lot of intervention. So you can definitely see how that's helping. We have also seen a lot of good scores in math at lower elementary too. So it's definitely paying off. We have a good math program. We have some highlights. When you look at across all of our schools across the district, nearly every school can say we've made a big difference with most of our kids. Jefferson, Franklin had almost subgroup gains across their entire building. It was amazing. Adams, Butler, Fairview, Graham, Harvard Park, Hazeldale, they made gains in almost all their subgroups. Blackhawk had double-digit gains. Laketown, Lee, and Hazeldale, they are very small schools, but they don't have subgroups. They just have their all category, which is kind of hard to understand. It's because they don't have 45 kids in any specific ethnic group, so they only get counted for their all subgroup, but they made great gains. And Matheny has had amazing gains. So has Ridgely, so has Wilcox. So it's been really exciting to see the great gains that have been made in all these buildings. Middle schools, we've seen a lot of gains in the multiracial categories and different subgroups such as Asian, and 8th grade had some really good gains at White and IEP and in their low-income math too. We had some concerns at 7th grade and 5th grade, so we're going to be taking a hard look at what happened in 7th grade. We had some drops in 7th grade math and 7th grade reading, so we have some concerns about that. The district and our teaching and learning team, we looked at that last Friday, and the buildings, the middle school buildings, are going to be looking at that too and talking about what we're going to do to address that going forward. So those are our challenges. You know, we're concerned about why our math scores didn't continue their upward climb as they did last year. We did, however, put a huge focus on reading this past year. So we wondered if we took away from math that we worked so hard on reading. Our greatest challenge right now is making the shift to the PARCC assessment. It is a sea change, and we know that this coming year, in the spring of 2014, is the last year we're giving the ISAT. And so this year, this spring, the 2013, this year that I'm talking about right now, there were 20% of the questions mapped to the Common Core. And this year, all of them will be, all the items will be mapped to the Common Core. So it will be tough what the kids, the tests that will be coming up. And then, so we know that this last ISAT test they take will be tough. Right now, we're doing data retreats. We had one Friday in our teaching and learning department and looked at all this data. Coming up, we're going to be looking at PSAE. We are setting goals. We're going to be writing the District Rising Star Plan coming up at our next teaching and learning data retreat. And we are focused on preparing for the PARCC assessment. This coming Friday at our principal meeting, Mary Jo Bangert and I will be presenting our first principal professional development, connecting our district literacy assessments with the new coming PARCC assessments, getting our principals ready so they can train the teachers on that. And we are constantly communicating our data around our assessments, and then each school is going to be doing their own data retreat on their school improvement days and using their information to build their own professional development around this data. So it's really important, and we want everybody to know how we're doing. We think that we're really happy the way that we're making some good progress around reading this year. So, questions?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I want to thank you guys so much for the work you've done, and also the principals and the teachers in these buildings. I think this is just indicative. You guys that know me know I'm a big data person, and this means a lot to me. I really understand what you're talking about here, and for people out there to say that this is a failing school district, they need to take another look, because I don't think they look at data when they talk about this. It's just hearsay on their part. If they'd ever sit and look at this data, they would know and we never have been, probably never will be, a failing school district. So my hat goes off to you guys and all the hard work you've done, because it's showing on. It's coming to fruition here, so thank you. Appreciate it.
I have two quick questions for you. In terms of transition to Park and Common Core, how is that going to affect? We know the first year is going to be very significantly different. How are we going to plan for that in terms of, I can see the scores significantly dropping just because it's a brand new test and we don't know what we're prepping for. How are we preparing for that?
Well, we are preparing for it now. Our literacy and math departments have already written brand-new assessments that are very much linked to the same types of questions and the same types of content that are going to be on the Park assessments. And so, aside from the fact that our instruction is already connected with the instructional shifts that are required to be successful on the new Park assessments, and that, and then we're also meeting with our technology team to make sure that going forward that our students are prepared for the technology shifts that are going to be absolutely important, that they are able to address what is going to be necessary to handle the technology portions of it too, because that is another big piece of the Park assessment, since the students are going to be taking the tests either on iPads or laptops. But that's going to be huge too. It's because right now they just take it on pencil and paper, but it's going to be a big deal.
The other one I had is, I noticed Pleasant Hill made AYP safe harbor for both reading and math, and Wanless made AYP for reading. Do we have any specific strategies in terms of transitioning those kids over to Fichens to make sure those gains aren't lost?
Well, that should give Fichens a great big boost. I mean, those kids did really well, and that's a big celebration that they did do so well.
They've already met 2 solid full days for retreats, and they've got
That's what I'm
their
looking
focus
for.
in place, and absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no doubt the students will do well. My concern is we don't lose them in this transition.
I understand.
You don't want to lose the game. And I agree, so. Thank you, Ann. Judy?
I'm concerned about these 8th grade losses. How are we addressing those?
Well,
Get back to this. Especially for minorities outside of the white, the IEP and the low income. I mean, that's where I believe, middle school is where you lose a lot of students. And I am concerned about what happens to African American males. And yes, I am, truly. I want everybody to hear that. I am truly concerned about that. And I want to know what we're going to do to set an adjustment. There are gains at Jefferson and Franklin, but what about the other schools? And overall, what are we going to do?
well, that's going to be definitely something that's going to be on our Rising Star goals, and we will be setting tasks to address that. That's part of our, I believe, IA 13 in our Rising Star. It's part of our response to intervention plan. So that's something that we'll be problem solving in our teaching and learning team. We'll definitely be addressing that.
For implementation as ASAP, right?
Yes, that's a week from Friday.
You said the dip is in 7th grade, right, at the middle school level?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, the 8th grade, they didn't,
We have,
there were no.
it's
gains.
spottier at middle
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 7th grade was our big drop, that they're now in 8th grade is what Mrs. Johnson's
And I don't
referring
know
to.
this is a phenomenon I've never understood, and we've talked about this before. 7th grade, there seems to be a dip every year for some reason, and I don't get it. We've talked about this for years. They do real well as 6th graders. They dip in the 7th grade, then come back up in 8th grade. And I don't know if it's just kids and transition, and I don't know what it. Just being 7th, I don't know, but this didn't surprise me because we've talked about this for the last 10 years, right, Mr. Sanders?
Yeah, but they
Yeah,
didn't,
it's-
this time they didn't come back up in the 8th grade, so. And I think, I haven't seen it, so that's a concern that I have. If you're gonna maintain the interest of these children, in as they progress through high school. We've got to do something about that middle school level. And we need to put more emphasis on it. I don't know, whatever your Rising Star plan should definitely be included as these teams develop their own individual school plans.
Okay.
And I mean, you've got to start here and then use it as a guideline. We have so many things that we start in this district, and they may be up here at the administrative level, but they don't filter down into the buildings.
Why don't we report at the next board meeting specifics about how things are going to be addressed? Particular things that are going to be done to address those middle school level concerns that I think we probably all have.
Okay, then this, I'm done with you guys. Remember at that last board meeting, I asked about the tests that we administer. Has anybody had a chance to work on that?
We did. Somebody, I think, emailed, Kathy, you know what I'm talking about here? Who was going to
Oh, yeah,
research
yes,
that? Somebody was going to put together a report of all the assessments, and I thought it
We
was
sent
actually,
it.
you sent it, yeah, that's
We
right.
did.
Okay.
We sent it. Nikki sent it in.
Yeah, that's right.
All right,
I
well,
thought that was out there.
what about the people?
You want,
What about the people? I'm one person. Maybe
Well,
we're
I
seven
think it was
it
people.
was sent to all board
I
members.
think it was August 23rd.
But I mean, what about the public? Can't they know that too?
Sure.
Okay.
It is on our assessment website, but we sent it to you.
Okay. But when I ask for things, I like to have so that everybody in the community can know if they're curious as I am.
Okay.
Okay, financial report, Bob?
Mr. Basco, give us a financial report for this month or this period of the month.
President Flamini, members of the board, attached to your board packet is a summary of revenue and expenditures for the month of August 2013 for the education and the operations and maintenance funds. The accounts receivable outstanding report is also attached, and as of August, the outstanding state reports totaled $672,000. The education fund revenues were $5.6 million, expenditures were $8.2, with expenditures exceeding revenues by $2.6 million. The operations and maintenance fund had revenues of $434 and expenditures of $1.6 million, with expenditures exceeding revenues by $1.1 million.
Any questions? Superintendent's report?
Just a couple things. First of all, I know a lot of people have been commending a lot of folks about the start of the school year, and I'd like to add to that. I've been in most of the buildings, not all of them, but by the end of this week, I will have been in every building in the district. And starting with the appearance of the buildings, I'm very impressed across the district. And then as far as what I see in the classrooms, we're off to a good start, and we should be very proud of what's going on in the buildings. I know many of you have been out there, and I am feeling personally very good about what we're seeing out in the classrooms. And I see the principal from Jefferson here tonight, and I've said more than once, take this as a shout out or whatever, but Jefferson Middle School is looking good, running good, and Ms. Crumpy, you ought to be very proud. But that goes for a lot of the buildings. And so I like what I see. The enrollment, we're getting close to the 10th day. At the next boarding, we'll be able to, at the next board meeting, I'll be able to give you some real hard numbers in terms of what's in our district. But it looks like we're holding our own with last year, maybe a little higher. But after the 10th day clean out, for the lack of a better term, we'll be dropping students who have not appeared. And I don't know exactly how many people that is, but we'll have some firm numbers soon. So off to a good start, and I'm real proud of our staff, teachers and principals and everyone for that. In addition to the board report, I know Mr. Sanders is going to give us a report on transfers. Would you like to do that at this time, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
President Flamini and members of the Board of Education, you have a packet in front of you that indicates the enrollment report for the 6th day, as well as attendance numbers for the 6th day. Like Mr. Lemming said, that should get cleaned up very soon at the beginning of the 11th day. We can go ahead and drop those students who have not reported at that time. You also have a report regarding the 13-14 school year with transfers, and then a total transfer report for all transfers in the district. So as you take a look at that report, if you have any questions specifically in any certain areas, then I'll be more than happy to address those questions, answer those, or report back. Just a note, as we were working on this, we found some things that what we wanted to do is try to clean up the report through the info system and through technology to where we could put together a report that is a little bit more detailed than this and has more specific as far as reasons behind the transfer per grade level that might indicate more information for you.
Any questions, Mr. Sanders? About the transfer report or anything else?
So these are new requests. These are, all first-time requests for transfers.
For 13-14 are current transfers, and then the total transfers are what we have on record for the school currently.
Okay.
If you took a snapshot of all grade levels in that particular building, that's what you'll see throughout the building. Then, again, the 13-14 were the new transfer requests.
What's M2M?
That's the majority to minority transfer for the court decree from 1976 that will provide minority students to transfer from appropriate enrollment centers. For instance, Caucasians at Lanphier and Springfield High can M to Southeast, and minority students from Southeast can M to Springfield High School.
And Lanphier. And Lanphier.
Say that again.
And Lanphier.
Southeast.
And they can go to Springfield and Lanphier.
Okay, Springfield and Lanphier.
Yeah, that's it too.
So the total number backed out like last year's seniors, right? They don't include last year's seniors, just current enrollment.
Yeah, you have a current, and then total.
I mean, I'm talking about the total sheet, the second sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that's currently enrolled, that's on.
Correct.
That's the only question I have. Let's take Springfield High School, for instance. There's 77 transfers this year, 62 were M to M. And what you're saying, you're going to give us a report on what the other 15 were out of the 77?
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure how closely these reports were always, I mean, we're putting a lot of work into it as far as the technology component to make sure, because when the reports were coming out initially, it didn't look accurate. I mean, you take a look at the pieces of paper that run across your desk and you look at the numbers. So we were continually going back to technology to say, take a look, take a look, take a look. And so we're progressing in that area to where they're pretty close. But what I'd like to see is, again, the breakdown of grade level and the reason behind the request.
Okay. Could also part of those 77 be sibling transfers?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A lot of times, too, you'll have the seniors that have attended for 3 years want to maintain that fourth year of attendance. And so you might have, a dozen to 15 kids that fall into that, with that category as well.
But any other transfers we really cut back on over the past few years, correct? I mean, these numbers are significantly down from what they were.
Well, yeah, I think historically that was really approaching hit hard probably 2 or 3 years ago. And, the guidelines that have been established by the board, for the most part, the transfer requests aren't nearly as great as what they used to be. And most of the transfers, especially K through 8, you leave that up to the discretion of the principal in accordance to the space that they might have and the reasons behind that. And then a lot of times with the high school transfers, many times it is within the guidelines of board policy.
Any comments or questions?
I think that's it. That's it. Okay, we're going to move to consent action items. I'm recommending to the board approval of consent action items 8.2 to 8.4 as described in your corresponding resolutions.
We need a motion and a
We need a
second.
motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
I had several questions about item 8.4, the approval of the soccer teams from Southeast and Lampier going to a soccer tournament. So what's the expense of this tournament, of them attending?
To the district?
Yes.
Nothing.
None.
Right.
So they've raised all the money?
Or their parents have paid. I know someone on cabinet shared with me this morning that their son, Mr. McVeigh, help me out.
Yep. $25.
So they paid for their expenses, but there's none incurred by the district. The primary, and I understand your question, but the reason it's on there, it's out of state, so it requires board approval.
Right.
And there's no additional expense to the district.
Much like the Springfield one we approved several weeks ago, I'm trying to find
Yes.
now, but same idea that we approved in consent.
Mr. Sanders, chime in at any time.
No, that's accurate. Anytime we go out of state, then we have to get approval. It's kind of a courtesy to the board to let them know what our team's doing and gain the blessing again, but it has to be, all money has to be raised it's on the team. It's not, the district does not pay for travel services.
Okay.
Plus, the Illinois High School Association wants local communities to seek approval to play out of state too. And they all do, and it's all part of board policy.
Board policy, yeah.
Well, I wanted to address it in the resolution. It states that the teams will raise all funds necessary. And so I didn't want to come back on us that, we approved it and yet the money wasn't there.
Okay.
But it is.
It is.
All right.
Well, I would assume so. I haven't personally talked to the coaches or ADs, but
They've been doing
That's
this
the
for a long
expectation.
time. Yeah.
Okay, well, if it's not raised, then who's it fall back on?
they don't go.
Okay, all right.
I would assume, am I correct, Mr. Sanders?
Or they may get creative in working with the principal and trying to find other avenues to gain
Okay.
the resources necessary to travel. But they know that the district, because it's board policy and it won't make it through our office approved, that they'll need to come up with the funds to
Okay.
some form of fashion. Whether sometimes the principal may extend courtesy to the teams and then get repaid later, but they work that out within the school.
Okay.
Okay, any more discussion, questions?
Thunderbird.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
McFarland.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Flamini.
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes. Motion carries.
Roll call, action items, 9.1, personnel recommendations. Ms. Sherman?
President Flamini and members of the board, the superintendent recommends the personnel recommendations as presented on the electronic school board. Please note an addendum is included.
Okay, you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm going to tell everybody up front on one of the items, B6, I'm going to be voting no on this, not because of the person, lovely person. The reason I'm voting no on this because I don't feel like the process was followed for hiring for positions, and so therefore I'll be voting no. And again, it's not the person, it was the process.
Okay. Motion been made, seconded? Okay.
Johnson?
Aye.
Lopez?
I with a abstention on B3 classified due to one of my clients.
McFarland?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye, except for B6, that'll be a no.
6, okay. Zimmers?
Aye, except for B6, and that would be a no.
Flamini?
Aye.
Funderburk?
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes with the noted abstention and no votes.
Okay, 9.2 is the approval of a consultant agreement with Sarah Ohlert for the Take One program. And the resolution reads, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education approves the retention of Sarah Ohlert, a Take One consultant to conduct monthly professional development during the 2013-14 school year for Jefferson Middle School at the cost of $4,950 plus expenses.
Do we need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
One of these days, I'm going to catch you two.
No, gonna keep calling on you.
Notice.
You're dependable.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
What would be expenses? What are considered expenses?
I'm going to ask Ms. Morrison to help me out with this, and I know she has some support here in the room tonight too from Illinois State. But Cherie, would you answer some of the questions regarding the Take One program, please?
The teachers should have everything they need, but we just put that in there, I'm sorry, just in case there was anything that Mrs. Ohlert might have to purchase on behalf of the teachers or anything of that nature, but there shouldn't be. Just wanted to cover.
Can you give us a brief overview of the program?
The Take One program is basically a professional development opportunity for the teachers to get to better know their students. They look very closely at data. I know there's been some discussion about looking at minority data and things of that nature, but they really take a close look at the students and get to know them. And then based on that, they are able to better execute lesson plans and operations in their classroom so that they can help student achievement. And that's primarily what it is. They, collaborate often with one another. The teachers collaborate, and Sarah Ohlert will help lead that work. Everything they do is aligned with Common Core, it's aligned with the Danielson framework, and it's just a professional development opportunity that we believe that will help move students.
That helps establish targeted groups also?
Yes.
That the kids that need the most instruction to close that gap?
Very much so, yes.
So we don't have, and I like Sarah, it's not about her, but we don't have anybody in-house to do this without paying out money?
Well, actually now, there was a time when department chairs, and she'll be working with them as well to help lead this work, but someone that can just focus on just helping teachers, whereas our department chairs, they have to teach a full load, so any help that they would give or provide would have to be done after school, whereas this is done all during the course of the school day.
So it's more of a mentoring opportunity? Is it something similar to that?
Somewhat. I mean, you could look at it like that, but just working closely with teachers so that they can become better at their practice.
And the funding is being provided through?
Title I.
Now, is this something that it's already been projected in our current budget?
Yes.
So it's already in the budget?
Yes. A certain amount of money each year has to be set aside for professional development. I think, what's it, 10%, Larry?
Yes, sir.
10% of the entire amount of money that the government provides has to be PD.
Okay. And so this is how Jefferson is choosing to spend that money?
Yes.
Okay. And I understand, is there some grant funds that are available to support this program too?
Yes, there are about 42 teachers that will be able to take advantage of this opportunity, that will receive this professional development. And I have to look at the name of the resource center. The National Board Resource Center, and it's really funded by the ISBE, so Chris Cook, and we recently got an email from the Regional Office of Education as well, but the funding comes from ISBE, and they, I think it's in excess of $16,000, will help subsidize the materials for the teachers, yes.
Is it possible that some of Sarah's expenses could be paid for by the grant money?
No.
No, okay.
So is there a limit on if we had the real budget hawks here, on the expenses, is there a limit as to how much can be spent on this particular?
You're talking about the part that says plus expenses?
Yes, that's my main concern.
Yes, ma'am. There should not be any. I just put that there just in case, but I highly doubt that there will be any. I don't really think that there's something, if there's anything that's needed, I know the school would be able to take care of that.
Minimal.
Minimal,
And
if any.
With Title I, we're required to spend a certain amount of dollars out of Title I for professional development, right? %. Yeah, that's what okay. So we have to spend this money from Title I.
Okay, but get this, that wasn't my question.
That's
My
not,
question was
that
about
was
the
my
expenses,
question.
Yeah,
That was actually my question.
yeah. It's been stated several times that Title I is responsible
just
for this.
confirming it.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion?
We have one.
Sorry.
We have a motion on the
We have
floor?
a motion and a second.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, call.
Lopez,
Aye.
McFarland,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Flamini,
Aye.
Funderburg,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes. The motion carries.
Sheree, did you have anybody you wanted to introduce?
We have, can I just talk?
Yeah.
We have Debbie Kaspersky. She's the director of the National Board Resource Center.
Right, I wanted to comment real quick about your supplies, because we did provide supplies for school also, paper for the whole year for the teachers to use. We've got clipboards,
everything you can think of, markers, even a copier machine, so when the teachers need to submit their materials at the end of the year. So we brought a truckload of materials. So I think, as Cherie said, minimum supplies or materials are going to be needed by Sarah, if anything. So we did everything with our funds to help set up your program, and did pay the full cost for the teachers to go through. It was $395 per teacher to participate in this program for the year long. So it was,
Well, I think that's fantastic.
I do,
because
too.
we are watching our money around.
yeah,
here.
it's really a
So,
good program to take part in. So I really, hats off to the teachers, the administrators who took this on. This is going to be a very good year for your staff.
Thanks for making the trip. And
I appreciate coming here. It's always interesting. I taught for 33 years, so I miss the school board meetings.
We also have, of course, Mrs. Crump that has already been acknowledged, and she's carrying on this work and doing an excellent job, so.
Well, thanks again. Okay, 9.3 is approval of a revision to board policy, administrative personnel related to recruitment and residency. And the resolution reads, now therefore be resolved that the board approves the attached policy related to recruitment and residency of administrative personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I want to point out, and this is something I pointed out at the committee meeting, I still have a concern with not having any kind of grandfather clause in this. I think and it has nothing to do with this current administration, but there has been some double standards in terms of how this has been followed. And I'm concerned that we haven't alleviated those issues yet, and we're going to have some administrators, principals who are going to fall through the cracks on this. That being said, the policy was already in place, and this does strengthen the policy, but I just want to point out my concern that we still have not fixed that grandfather issue.
Mike, have you got anything to say?
Well, I think you kind of said a mouthful there. The policy's been in existence forever. Because people struck deals throughout the year, I don't really feel like we need to grandfather them because we have had the policy in place. We're just trying to, I think, solidify exactly what we're asking here, and for any new administrators that come in later, that there will be no doubt about what this policy says. Where Mr. Lemmy has already set up, for the application process and the posting, that it will be stated there, these stipulations, so there will be no reason to doubt whether it's in there, it's not in there. And, I want to repeat, this is not a gotcha for anyone. We're not trying to do that. This is just, I feel like if we're going to have policies in this district, policies need to be for all, not most. And I think that's what we're running into with a lot of policies. These policies have been made for most, and I think we need to clean this up in several areas. So that's all I'd have to say about that.
I guess the only comment I would make, if we come back to the language at the start of it, in order to secure the most qualified individuals, I'm not sure how this gets us to that. That's number one. Number two, the issue doesn't seem to be the lack of a policy. As you've said, Mr. Zimmers, we've had this policy. The issue seems to be enforceability, and I don't see how the changes that we're being asked to approve tonight address enforceability. So those are my thoughts.
I guess the difference being is that every year we're going to ask for proof of residency. Not that people still can't kind of fudge that, but we're just hoping people are going to be honest about this. Am I going to go out and check people's houses, make sure they live there? No, I'm not going to that extent. We're just
And I
hoping
don't think
people-
that's a board responsibility to do that.
It isn't. We're just hoping people are going to be honest about it, provide the information that we're asking for. And again, this is not a gotcha. We're just trying to clean up this language, just make sure that everybody's treated equally. We've had people move in over the years that did not have the financial means nor the deal-making capabilities to strike a deal, and I don't think it's fair to those people that complied with this. And so I think we just need to make it clear to everybody this is a policy for all.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, I just want to address your comment, Lisa, in that, the first sentence is, we are seeking the most qualified individuals, and we're seeking most qualified by looking inside and outside the district. We're only asking that if you do live outside the district, that you move within our boundaries if you are selected. So.
Anything else?
Okay. Lopez?
Aye.
McFarland?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Zimmers?
Aye.
Flamini?
Aye.
Funderburg? No. Johnson?
Aye.
That is 6 aye votes and 1 no. The motion carries.
Student discipline?
Mr. Flamini, there's one recommendation regarding student discipline, and that's one ninth grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Southeast High School through the end of the 2013-14 school year with a program.
So moved.
Moved by Judy. Second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Just one moment, please. I'm having a little bit. I'm sorry. Who motioned? Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah, I
And
second.
the second was Ms. Moore. Thank you. McFarland?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Zimmers?
Aye.
Flamini?
Aye.
Funderburg? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Lopez?
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes. The motion carries.
Okay, we have 3 things here for public participation. Catherine Eastvold, you want to come forward?
Good evening.
I think,
Thanks. That's okay, I can talk loudly anyway. Good evening, President Flamini, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Catherine Eastfold. I live at 700 South State Street, and I'm a parent of 3 children now in district schools. First, Mr. President, I want to thank you for your remarks on the subject of the urgent need for additional revenue for our schools. It has been said, however, that members of the board cannot be the driving force behind this effort, and that the momentum needs to come from the community itself. I couldn't agree more. That's why I'm speaking to you tonight. I'm a parent and a member of the voting public, and I'm here to say that I'm ready to chip in. My family is willing to pay a small bit more on our tax bill every year in order to invest in our schools, to invest in the future for our children and our neighbors' children. And judging from the many conversations that I've been having with other parents in the district, we're not alone. We're coming up on the 30th anniversary, the 30th of the last successful referendum that we've had in this district. It was approved in 1984 at a time of great fiscal crisis. Now, our financial situation, I would say, is not yet a crisis, but it is precarious. I submit to you that we ought not to allow our district's finances to get to the breaking point before we act. Last year, we saw the closure of 3 schools, creating instability for some of the district's most vulnerable students. Millions more in cuts are probably ahead this year. The decisions are only getting harder, and the options are only getting worse without additional revenue. In 2010, we considered raising taxes for new facilities. Now, I would argue, we need the money to pay our teachers and keep our schools open. We have a choice to make. Building on our successes and choosing high-quality schools will improve Springfield's business climate, encourage families to stay in town, and of course, give our children genuine opportunities to succeed in life. On the other hand, chronically underfunded, increasingly poor-quality schools will lead to lower employment among graduates, more crime, and fewer businesses and residents choosing to move here. The state, at least in the short term, is not in a position to bail us out, nor even to pay us what we're owed. It's up to us, and we are going to get what we pay for. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Lopez, please.
Good evening. My name is Mike Lopez. I'm representing my employer, the Sangamon County Emergency Telephone System Department, which is part of the Sangamon County Dispatch Center. I'm asking the board board members and the media to look at the packets I will be handing out after the meeting tonight. We're at a critical program we want to kickstart again this year. We're promoting a 901 education program to all first graders in Sangamon County, parochial, private, and public. Last year, we had a so-so participation by many of the schools within the District 186. They said, principals said, we have no time for it. We don't know if we should do it. But I want to jumpstart it. I'm inviting any members of the board, the cabinet, or the media to join me and other members of the staff, co-workers of mine that will be doing the presentation to sit in with it. We have currently, right now, the apparatus within the dispatch center. How many of you got cell phones? Raise your hand. Don't be bashful. Quite a few. How many have taken out your household landline phones out of your home? If you make a cell phone call from this spot at 1900 without the GPS mechanism on it, we will ask you a number of questions through dispatch to try to locate where you're at. It'll take a while to find you within a few seconds, but it could be a quarter of a mile. If you draw a line from this spot where I'm standing, that'll take you a line in one direction all the way to CVS. Draw a circle all the way to the SHG lobby, back to the 1500 block of Monroe Street, and all the way southwest down to the middle of Chatham Road. That's quite a bit of area to cover if a child's calling that says, I'm in distress, I have a medical problem, mom or dad's in a disturbance, or I saw an accident. So I'm asking for your help in promoting this in the media, to join us in our presentations. It's geared to all first graders in Sangamon County. It costs you nothing. I know you're talking about money. It costs you nothing. In fact, my time tonight is donated by myself. I'm not charging the county for comp time or anything for this, so excuse me. So it's a packet that we present to every first grader to reinforce it. We show a DVD presentation at some of the schools. where there's a DVD available to be used. We ran across that in the city and the county where there's some, we have to bring our own DVD player, but we'll get through that. All the materials are paid by donations and also by one of our key sponsors, Medics First of Springfield, one of the ambulance services. So I'll be passing out the packet later on after the meeting to all the board members and the media, but Jim had, last year got me on one of his sister stations, and predecessor to Molly had wrote a front page article a couple years ago. It was written by Pete Sherman when they did this, kicked it off a few years ago. But we really want to target, there's 3,000 first graders in Sangamon County. We want to target as many of those as possible. If it saves one life, that's all that counts. So I thank you for your help, and the key word is it's free, okay? Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Mike.
Okay.
Jessica Polimas, did I pronounce that right?
President Flamini, members of the board, thank you again for offering me the opportunity to speak in front of you today. I also am speaking in reference to the potential referendum. As a parent of 2 kids in District 186, each of which attend different schools, I do believe that this is something that the community can get behind at this point. I know that there's been a lot of talk in the past about a trust deficit, and I do think that this board has come a long way to decreasing that trust deficit, and you've made great strides, and I applaud you for that. As I was thinking back to 1984, when the last referendum passed, I thought, wow, how much have I done since then? Well, first of all, I turned 8. And a whole lot of other numbers as well. I moved 9 times, became an Illinois State Scholar, got a 3/4 tuition scholarship to a private university, graduated with my bachelor's degree, worked in corporate America for a couple of years, got married, had a couple kids, moved to Springfield. I've been here for 10 years now, and still not an improvement to the schools in my neighborhood. The schools that my kids attend now and will attend in the future. And I really feel like this is a key time to avoid a further detriment to our society, to our town, to our area. You know, it's short-sighted to short fund our schools. Statistics have shown that when kids aren't reading at their grade level by 3rd grade, that's what the prisons base the number of beds they have available for the future. We cannot allow this to continue. We have to have some way to further fund our schools, and my family is more than happy to pay our share. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. That just about concludes this for the day. Next regular meeting would be Monday, September the 16th, 5:30. Alliance legislative reports coming out. You can see them, 10.2. 10.3, Freedom of Information Report. Do we have anything on that? Julie? Oh, yeah.
It's, everything is available on the ESB. Basically, we're, where we need to be with our FOIAs.
Okay. I think that's it. See you on the 16th. You know, I just thought... What were you going to do about